Thank you for joining us. Here's what's happening right now. A deadly synagogue rampage. Police in the UK are declaring a terror attack.
This is a country that stands up to hatred.
It's horrifying.
Why places of worship are stepping up security around the world.
This is truly no pain no one should ever have to feel.
How a Canadian man killed in the U.S. is being remembered by his family.
And I looked down and I said, boy, it's great being up here.
Plus, crew with a cause, how this pair of pilots is making history.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Hello, I'm Marcia McMillan in Today for Sandy. British police are calling it a terror attack on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. A man drove a car into a synagogue and began stabbing people, killing 2 and seriously injuring 3 others. CTV's Heather Wright now on the fear and heightened security at synagogues everywhere, including here in Canada. Heather.
Well, Marcia, some Jewish communities either don't know or are just starting to learn about these attacks because many don't check their phones or check the news today until sundown. On this, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, an attack at a synagogue. Police say a man wearing what appeared to be an explosive vest first drove a car into people gathered outside a temple in Manchester, England, then got out of his car and attacked others with a knife. He was then shot dead by police while trying to get inside the building. 2 people were killed, 4 others injured.
We shouldn't be scared to feel or believe in what we believe.
The attack has been deemed an act of terror and occurred in an area of Manchester home to many Orthodox Jews. It comes at a time of heightened fears in the Jewish community and rising anti-Semitism around the world. The man suspected of carrying out the attack has been identified as 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami. 3 other people have been arrested as well on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism and remain in custody.
I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe.
Here at home, security has also increased outside of synagogues. Toronto Police announced last month they would increase patrols throughout the high holidays, as well as during the lead up to the 2-year anniversary of the Hamas attacks of October 7th.
Scary times, obviously, okay, and it's crazy. It's crazy. This cannot continue.
If you can always justify our murder, then it doesn't stop.
Today, Prime Minister Mark Carney called the Manchester synagogue attack an appalling anti-Semitic atrocity, vowing we will always protect the inalienable rights of Jewish communities to live their lives free from intimidation and threats of violence. And despite the increased security, many worshippers we spoke with said there is a fear within the Jewish community, a concern that what happened in England could happen here. Marcia.
Heather, thank you. Health officials in Alberta are confirming the province's first measles death this year since outbreaks of the highly contagious disease began in March. They say a 4-month-old baby whose mother contracted measles during pregnancy was born prematurely and died shortly after birth. Officials are now urging anyone planning on getting pregnant to obtain 2 measles vaccines before they conceive. A major announcement from the federal government today on how Canada will make big defense purchases. The new Defense Investment Agency aims to cut red tape and speed up the delivery of equipment to the military. CTV's Judy Trinh is taking a closer look at what this means in the context of a trade war. Judy.
Marcia, it's not just about speed. It's about building up the military industry here in Canada and reducing reliance on the U.S. Of all the billions of dollars Canada spends on military equipment, 75% of it goes to suppliers in the United States. A former fighter pilot turned politician says the new Defense Investment Agency will change that.
We're not going to be spending 75 cents of our dollar south. We'll be amortizing that money out in Canada where we can, and then spending it in other places where we have to.
The agency aims to cut red tape and duplication. It will aim to prioritize selecting Canadian companies on big contracts valued at more than $100 million for equipment like drones, small arms, and shipbuilding. But there are no targets for how much less they want to spend on American weapons. The first major decision the agency will make involves procuring up to a dozen new submarines to replace Canada's aging fleet. But the minister says the purchase of more F-35s from the U.S. is still under review. Canada could buy fighter jets from Sweden instead.
There's no pressure on us to make a decision until we're ready to make a decision. We're a sovereign country.
The slow play comes as trade talks drag on. Before a Senate committee, the country's top negotiator tempered expectations.
Resolvable might mean going back to where we were a year ago. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I think we can be in a lot better position over time than we find ourselves in today.
The federal government wants to use these big procurement contracts as leverage to encourage foreign companies to set up manufacturing here while increasing market access for Canadian companies overseas. Marcia.
Thanks, Judy. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is pushing for the Liberals to get on board with his party's plans to reform Canada's bail system.
While people are dying on our streets, where our citizens are being massacred, while women are being killed by abusive ex-husbands, Mark Carney has spent 6 months spinning in circles, leaving Liberal laws in place. And he is personally responsible for the violence on our streets because it is him that is standing in the way of us fixing the problem.
The opposition leader is calling to fast-track a proposed Conservative bill being dubbed the Jail Not Bail Act, which will make judges consider the accused full criminal history and make it harder for those who commit major offenses on bail to receive bail again. The Liberals have indicated their own bail reform bill is on the way. Over 30 arrests have been made and 38 stolen vehicles recovered in Ontario's Niagara region in an investigation dubbed Project Road King.
It's a clear example of what can be achieved when law enforcement agencies break down silos.
Multiple police forces, border services, and the RCMP combined to recover about $3 million worth of vehicles, also drugs, weapons, and cash. The 30 people arrested are facing over 200 criminal charges. A funeral was held today for Mike Robinson, the Canadian man who was shot and killed while on a golf trip in Wisconsin last week. One suspect has been arrested in connection with the death. Today, Robinson's family gathered in Oshawa, Ontario to say goodbye. CTV's Adrian Gabriel is there today. Adrian, what's happening?
Marcia, it was a day of immeasurable grief for so many, though we also witnessed a touching tribute. Hundreds came and lined up outside of a funeral home right here in Oshawa, Ontario, to pay respect to Giovanni Michael Robinson. A moving acoustic tribute as a grieving family gathers around an open casket to say a final, heartbreaking goodbye. With hockey jerseys lining the walls, Mike Robinson's older brother took a deep breath as he began to deliver an emotional eulogy.
Mike, you wore many jerseys. Son and brother first, then teammate, then came along husband, and just weeks ago, one of the most proudest that he put on, Dad.
Just 6 weeks ago, the 32-year-old and his wife welcomed a baby daughter into the world.
Your dad loved you onwards.
Last Wednesday, the new father experienced another lifetime achievement, sinking his first hole-in-one at a Wisconsin golf course he dreamed of playing. One of his first phone calls after draining the shot was to his brother Jacob back in Canada.
He celebrated with pride of someone who understood that perfect moments are truly rare.
Mikey! A few short hours later, Mike Robinson was murdered.
A subject who was shot.
Robinson was walking to his hotel after dinner in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin, when he was shot. The 35-year-old has been arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Raised in Stouffville, Ontario, Robinson played hockey in the OHL, ECHL, and in Europe. Now living in Pennsylvania, he was scheduled to fly back to Canada this weekend for his sister's wedding, which is now being postponed.
Know this, Mikey will be there. He'll be there in the first look, in the bows, and the laughter of all the speeches.
With the family now hosting a somber celebration of life, there has been an outpouring of support. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been donated to an online fundraiser, and there were more flowers sent than the family could fit in a single room for this service.
This story is not a headline. Even on this last day, Mikey did find joy. He shared it, and he gave it away for me.
Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven?
With grace and gratitude, Jacob Robinson shared that part of his brother's legacy was witnessed right here today. A community showing up like Mike always did through the toughest of times. Marcia.
Adrian, thank you for that. Adrian Gabriel. A Quebec man who was convicted of killing 4 people decades ago may have been wrongly convicted. The province's Crown prosecutor admits a miscarriage of justice may have occurred in the case of Daniel Jolivet, who has spent more than 30 years behind bars. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin covered the story for W5 years ago and has the latest for us today. Geneviève.
Well, Marcia, those fighting to prove Daniel Jolivet is innocent say this could be a turning point. Daniel Jolivet has spent more than half his life behind bars, claiming his innocence. We spoke to him in prison in 2023.
I didn't kill those people. They were my friend, you know?
Now, a rare letter from Quebec's Crown Prosecutor's Office could be key to his case. We now believe that the allegation of miscarriage of justice against Mr. Jolivet is not without merit, wrote Prosecutor Benoit Lauzon to Jolivet's lawyer.
They recognized that there was a mistake that was done. Disclosure was not made properly, and this could have had an impact on Mr. Jolivet's case.
Jolivet was convicted of a 1992 quadruple murder. Drug traffickers Denis Lemieux and François Leblanc were gunned down, along with 2 women who were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Jolivet was a career criminal. Evidence against him rested on the testimony of a former police officer turned criminal turned informant.
I want them to know that I'm innocent. And
Jolivet has repeatedly petitioned the Criminal Conviction Review Group for a new trial.
The other day, I phoned Daniel and he said, you know what? I've been in jail 12,000 days.
Pierre Belin is the one who wrote to the Crown asking for a review. He wrote a book about the case, The 12th Juror. He says the letter shows the Crown does not believe Jolivet got a fair trial.
The prosecution at the time did not, through discovery, did not pass on to the defense a ton of documents.
But the Crown can't order a new trial. The file is now in the hands of the Justice Minister.
We believe that he could act, and we hope that he will do so, because every day that he doesn't act, well, an innocent person is in prison.
Supporters now hope they're a step closer to securing Jolivet's release. Marcia.
Thank you, Geneviève. Air travelers across Canada could face delays after an outage at border inspection kiosks. The Canada Border Services Agency says multiple airports were impacted. The issue is resolved, but travelers may still experience delays in the short term. The kiosks are located at major airports across the country and are used by passengers touching down from international flights. They say the incident was connected to an earlier outage this week. The cost of buying a home is felt out of reach for many people in Canada, but a new report shows affordability is improving in some of the most expensive cities, but not all. CTV's Kathy Lee is in Calgary now, where affordability is going in the wrong direction. Kathy.
Marcia, the report released by the interim parliamentary budget officer shows Calgary as one of the cities where affordability actually worsened, even though the cost of carrying a mortgage is still relatively low. In contrast, Edmonton was found to be the most affordable of any major metropolitan in the analysis. An economist says one of the possible reasons for the difference is that Edmonton is a government city.
Government is to some extent recession-proof. Government will go on no matter what. And so where Calgary might live and die by the oil and gas sector, where jobs will hemorrhage with the ups and downs of the oil price, the government is much, much less likely because it's much more unionized. So that stability also brings a greater amount of affordability.
Affordability in the report was calculated based on the gap between average home prices and what the typical household can afford. Nationwide, the gap narrowed from 80% in 2023 to 34% in August. Cheaper borrowing costs, lower home prices, and stronger wages are contributing factors, making it more accessible to pay for a mortgage and own a home.
We've seen a lot of labor disruptions built around the idea of asking for above average wage increases, which have also triggered then in the private sector the request for above average wage increases.
While cities with better housing prices saw affordability get worse, some of the country's most expensive housing markets like Hamilton and Toronto actually saw affordability improve significantly. Marcia.
Kathy, thank you for that. Coming up, a chaotic collision on the tarmac.
Their right wing clipped our nose.
Investigating how two passenger planes made contact. Chaotic scenes for travelers in New York when two planes collided at LaGuardia Airport.
Yeah, we did. Their right wing clipped our nose and the cockpit. We have damage to our windscreen and some of our screens in here.
In what officials are calling a low-speed collision, the wing of a plane getting ready to take off reportedly struck the cockpit window of a plane that had just landed. One flight attendant on the departing plane was taken to hospital with minor injuries. No passengers on board either plane were injured. The White House says layoffs rather than the usual furloughs of employees are imminent as the U.S. government shutdown continues.
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands. It's a very good question, and that's something that the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team at the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work on today.
Today is day 2 of the shutdown with little sign of Republicans or Democrats compromising. The next vote that could end the situation would be held tomorrow while hundreds of thousands of workers have been put on unpaid leave. Israel is warning residents this is the last chance to escape Gaza City, ordering evacuations and saying those who remain will be considered militant supporters. Palestinians were carrying their belongings through tent camps, fleeing as strikes hit the city overnight, killing at least 41. The United Nations estimates between 600 and 700,000 people are still inside Gaza City. This after up to 400,000 fled in the past weeks as Israeli forces have advanced. And this comes after Israel intercepted around 40 boats carrying aid and more than 500 activists to Gaza, the latest attempt to break Israel's blockade of the area. Organizers behind the flotilla are calling the interception illegal. The flotilla interception has sparked protests in dozens of European cities, including Rome, Dublin, and The Hague. Demonstrators are demanding the release of activists who were taken to Israel, where officials say they are safe and in good health. There's no word on when they will be released. Amid escalating violence in Haiti, UN officials are warning armed gangs in the capital are restricting essential aid to those in desperate need, leading to a hunger crisis. Local reports suggest these gangs now control almost 90% of Port-au-Prince. This has led to fragile food systems, like farmers being cut off from markets and higher food prices at stores. More than 1 million people have fled their homes in search of food and shelter. Still ahead, desperately displaced, first-hand accounts of evacuating Nova Scotia's wildfire zone. A late-season wildfire forced the evacuation of hundreds of homes in Nova Scotia this week. The fire broke out Sunday in the Lake George area, about an hour and a half from Halifax. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth is in the area. He's been speaking to residents. Paul.
Marcia, beyond this barricade, fire crews are trying to contain and extinguish a wildfire that is burning out of control. When this latest wildfire to impact Nova Scotia began to spread, campground owner Heidi Tupper and her neighbors were forced to evacuate.
This is very scary. From our main field where we have our festivals and stuff, you could see the flames shooting over the trees.
The wildfire burning at nearby Lake George is roughly 2.5 square kilometers in size. Tupper escaped along with family members and her animals.
We have 7 horses here and 5 dogs and 6 kitties.
This latest fire comes as Nova Scotia has extended the wildfire season until the end of October. CTV meteorologist Kayla Mitchell says a Nova Scotia-based weather station has produced some alarming data which underscores the dry conditions.
It's only seen about 37% of the normal amount of precipitation through June all the way through September, including only 10 millimeters of precipitation over the last 2 months. It's rated as being an extreme drought.
There is no significant rainfall in the weather forecast for this area, which means these dangerous dry conditions could continue, possibly causing this evacuation order to last even longer. Marcia.
Thanks, Paul. After the break, piloting with purpose. Meet the senior crew making sure their cause takes wing. Imagine crossing the Atlantic over the course of 30 days in a small plane with one other person. Maybe not everyone's idea of adventure, but for two seniors, it's also an opportunity to raise money for a good cause. CTV's Garrett Barry caught up with the pair as they made a quick stop in St. John's.
This pair have been a lot of places over the past month.
Sunday, we only have, I think, an hour and a half flight to...
But this layover is a record setter. After their 10-hour flight yesterday from the Azores in Portugal to St. John's, Ed Galkin and his team believe he's become the oldest aviator to cross the Atlantic in a single-engine airplane, a 1976 Cessna.
We don't find it boring. I'm up there, I look around, I look down, and I say, boy, it's great being up here. It's a big ocean, and a lot of problems that you think you have, you really don't have it.
It's not just for the history books. This journey is a fundraiser for the Rotary Club's work in taking on polio around the world. The second one in a series that's already raised millions for the cause.
We've seen the greatness of Rotary and all these other organizations united together to end polio. So we don't have hope. More importantly, we believe we are seeing the end of polio.
Their friendship is a new one. These men spent just a few hours on the phone and meeting before setting off on this 5-week trip together in one of the smallest airplanes you'll ever find.
We definitely didn't have too much difficulty handling each other.
We've never been at a loss of words about what to talk about or tell jokes about. And sometimes I get irritable and sometimes he gets irritable. And usually within minutes, we're off talking about something else.
It's Ed's second world record. He's also believed to be the oldest to navigate the globe in a single-engine aircraft.
Well, I guess I'm number one.
He says if conflict and unrest subsides around the world, he might consider an around-the-world journey one more time. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
Amazing. That's our newscast. I'm Marcia McMillan. From all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching. Your local CTV News starts right now.